The Machiavellian Code, how to become unstoppable. They already tried. The people who said you'd never be anything. The ones who watched you fall and felt a secret sense of relief. The ones who smiled to your face while quietly hoping you'd stay exactly where you were. Small, contained, predictable. They tried to hold you back, and for a while it worked. Not because they were powerful, but because you believed them. You absorbed their doubt as if it were poison and called it reality. You carried their fear as if it were your own. You dimmed your own light so you wouldn't threaten their darkness. But there's one thing they didn't count on. You are still here, still breathing, still standing, still burning somewhere deep down. And that fire they tried to put out, it didn't die. It just went underground. It learned to survive in the dark. It became something they no longer recognize, something they can no longer control. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this fire. He spent his life studying power, not the scandalous power that screams and announces itself, but the silent kind that moves through the shadows. He watched men rise and fall. He observed empires crumble not from external force, but from internal weakness. And hidden in his writings is a code, a psychological architecture for you to become untouchable, not cold, not cruel, untouchable. The kind of person who can be insulted without flinching, rejected without crumbling, betrayed without losing direction. This isn't about revenge. It isn't about turning to stone. This is about understanding a truth so uncomfortable that most people spend their entire lives running from it. The people who hurt you never had the power to break you. You gave that power to them. And tonight, you are going to take that power back. Let me ask you a question. How many times have you been knocked down? How many defeats have you tasted? How many nights have you stayed awake wondering if you'd ever find your place in the world? And yet, here you are, still standing, still searching, still refusing to accept that this is all there is. Do you understand what that means? It means you are unbreakable. Not because you don't feel pain, but because pain didn't stop you. It means that every attack, every rejection, every betrayal was supposed to finish you, and it didn't. They couldn't break you. Not because you are made of stone, but because there is a part inside you that refuses to quit. A part that keeps whispering, not yet. A part that knows, with irrational certainty, that your story isn't over. Machiavelli called this quality virtù. Not virtue in the moral sense, but an inner force. A combination of will, adaptation, and relentless forward motion. It is what separates those who shape their own destiny from those who are shaped by circumstances. And most people don't realize this. Virtù isn't something you have or don't have. It is something you build. Every time you get up after falling, you are building. Every time you choose action over self-pity, you are building. Every time you refuse to let someone's opinion define your worth, you are building. The attacks were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to reveal you. Every wound you carry is evidence that you survived something. Every scar is proof that you chose to keep going when staying on the ground would have been easier. You think your pain makes you weak? Your pain is your power. It taught you things that comfort never could. It dug depths into your character that safety would have left shallow. It gave you knowledge that only comes from walking through fire. Think about Kobe Bryant. He tore his Achilles tendon in the middle of the court. His career could have ended right there. At 34, with everything conquered, no one would have judged him if he hung up his sneakers. But he didn't. He took the 2 free throws, walked off the court, and spent the next 9 months rebuilding his body. Not because he needed to prove something to someone, but because he had something inside him that refused to let pain write the end of the story. The people who tried to break you had no idea what they were creating. They thought they were crushing you. They were forging you. And now you are ready to understand something Machiavelli understood 500 years ago. The same force that tried to destroy you is the same force that made you dangerous. Not dangerous in a violent sense. Dangerous because you can no longer be controlled by fear. But before going deeper, I need to tell you a brutal truth that no one wants to say out loud. Most people are prisoners, not of circumstances, not of the environment, not even of the people who hurt them. They are prisoners of a version of themselves that was never real. They built their identity on top of the expectations of others. They shaped their dreams according to what seemed acceptable. They silenced their truest impulses because someone once said those impulses were dangerous, wrong, too much. And now they walk through life wearing invisible chains, wondering why they feel so heavy. Machiavelli saw this with frightening clarity. He wrote extensively about how men enslaved themselves, not by tyrants, but by their own need for approval. He understood that the most dangerous form of control isn't violence, it's dependence. When you depend on someone's opinion to feel worthy, that person owns you. When you need validation to act, you have already surrendered. When you mold your choices trying to avoid disapproval, you are no longer free. And the cruelest part? The people holding your chains often don't even know they're doing it. They're just living out their own unconscious patterns, projecting their own fears onto you. And you absorbed it all because you were young, because you trusted, because you didn't know you had a choice. But you aren't young anymore, and now you know. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Machiavelli once wrote, "A man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him among so many who are evil." This isn't a call to abandon morality. It is a warning, an alert. It means that if you wait for the world to be fair before you start moving, you will wait forever. The world isn't fair. People will try to hold you back, not because they are evil, but because your growth threatens their stagnation. Your courage exposes their cowardice. Your rise reminds them of their own excuses. And so they will say things like, "Be realistic. Don't get your hopes up. Who do you think you are?" They will disguise fear as wisdom. They will call limitations love. But there's one thing they don't understand. You aren't asking for permission anymore. Now comes the part that will change everything. The code Machiavelli left hidden in his writings. The psychological architecture that makes a person truly unstoppable. It isn't a list of tactics. It is a shift in consciousness. A reprogramming of how you view yourself in relation to the world. And it starts with an uncomfortable truth. You are strategically alone. Stop. Take a deep breath. Let that sink in. You are alone. Not in the emotional sense, not in the isolated sense, but in the strategic sense. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you your purpose on a silver platter. No one is going to fight your battles while you watch from the bleachers. This isn't pessimism, it is liberation. Because the moment you stop waiting for rescue, you become the rescue. The moment you accept that your life is your responsibility, you take back every drop of power that has been leaking out to others. Machiavelli wrote, "He who builds on the people builds on the mud." He wasn't saying people are worthless. He was saying that if your foundation is external approval, it will crumble under the first real pressure. Your foundation needs to be internal. Your sense of value, your direction, your reason for getting out of bed in the morning. This cannot be borrowed. It needs to be owned, completely, without apology. The determined person doesn't ask, "Will they support me?" They ask, "Can I do this alone if I have to?" And the answer is always yes. Let me give you a practical example. You know Steve Jobs, right? In 1985, he was fired from his own company, Apple, the company he founded in his parents' garage. The board voted to oust him. The people he hired, that he trained, that he trusted, turned their backs. He could have crumbled. He could have become bitter, resentful, trapped in that betrayal for the rest of his life. But he did something different. He didn't wait for Apple to apologize. He didn't wait for the board to admit their mistake. He didn't stay begging for a second chance. He simply started over. He founded Next. He bought Pixar. He built on top of his own vision, not the approval of those who rejected him. And when Apple finally begged him to come back 12 years later, because the company was on the brink of bankruptcy, he didn't return as someone who was rescued. He returned as the rescuer. That is the difference between building on mud and building on rock. But there is a second truth that will free you even more. Emotions are data, not commands. Most people are governed by what they feel. They feel fear, so they retreat. They feel anger, so they explode. They feel doubt, so they freeze. But Machiavelli understood something different. Emotions are signals. They tell you what is happening beneath the surface, but they are not orders. You are not obligated to obey them. The untouchable mind feels everything but is controlled by nothing. It observes fear without running. It notices anger without reacting. It registers doubt without surrendering. This isn't suppression. It is mastery. You don't become cold. You become free. Free to choose your response instead of being hijacked by your reactions. When someone insults you, you feel the sting, but you choose whether to strike back or walk away. When an opportunity knocks, you feel the fear, but you choose whether to let it paralyze you or propel you. When a betrayal cuts deep, you feel the rage, but you choose whether to waste energy on revenge or invest in rebuilding. The determined person doesn't pretend emotions don't exist. They just refuse to let them drive the car. Think with me for a second. Have you ever noticed how the weakest people always need to react? Someone says something, they need to respond immediately. Someone provokes them, they need to defend themselves. Someone questions them, they need to justify themselves. It's as if there is an invisible chain between the stimulus and the response. No space, no choice, just automatic reaction. But there is a space there, a gap, so small that most never realize it exists. And in that microscopic space lives all your power. Because when you can create distance between what happens to you and how you respond, you stop being a slave to circumstances. You become an architect. Machiavelli knew this. That's why he wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." He wasn't talking about speed, he was talking about clarity. The fool reacts, regrets, suffers the consequences, and then, after much damage, does what they should have done from the beginning. The wise man skips the drama. He goes straight to the right move. How? Because he created the gap, the space between feeling and acting, between being provoked and responding. I'll give you an example you've probably lived through. You're in an argument. They say something that hits you, something they know hurts, and you feel that anger rising, that urge to strike back, to say something even worse just to hurt them back. And the weak version of you does that, explodes, shouts, says things that can't be undone. And the next day when the dust settles, you look at the wreckage and realize you destroyed something that took months to build. Why? Because you let emotion drive. But the strong version, the Machiavellian version, they say it. You feel the anger, but you breathe. Count to 3, and then you look at them, calm, and say, "I'm going for a walk. We'll talk when I get back." And you leave. Not because you're running away, because you created the gap. You interrupted the automatic pattern of reacting. You chose clarity over chaos. And when you come back an hour later, you've already processed it. You've understood that they are attacking not because you are bad, but because they are afraid, or hurt, or insecure. And then you can really talk, instead of warring. This gap saves relationships, it saves careers, it saves lives. And now, the third truth, perhaps the most dangerous one. Strategic concealment is survival. You need to learn to wear masks, not to deceive, but to survive. Machiavelli knew that the world doesn't reward transparency. It rewards strategy. The person who reveals everything becomes a target. The person who holds something back becomes intriguing, powerful, unpredictable. This doesn't mean becoming fake. It means being selective. You don't owe anyone anything. You don't need to prove yourself to people who haven't earned your truth. You can be warm without being exposed. You can be kind without being naive. The mask isn't a lie, it's protection. It is the understanding that not everyone deserves to see the full depth of who you are. And when you master this, something extraordinary happens. People stop being able to use your openness against you. They stop finding weak points to exploit. They start to feel there is something different about you, something they can't manipulate. That is where power changes hands. Have you noticed how the most powerful people speak little? How they don't justify every decision as if they were reporting to an invisible court? When a king decrees something, does he explain? Does he give reasons? Does he apologize for the decision? No, he simply decides, and the decree becomes reality. But you You make a decision and immediately start. It's because I thought that. And there's also the fact that, and I know it might seem like, but actually, stop. Every justification is a disguised request for approval. It's you saying, please, agree with me. Please, validate my existence. Now imagine the opposite. They test you, provoke you, make some passive-aggressive comment expecting you to react, for you to explain yourself, for you to dance the dance they orchestrated, and you don't take the bait. You look at them. 3 seconds of eye contact, no anger, no fear, just presence, and then you go back to what you were doing. They will ask, is everything okay? Everything is great. And you don't elaborate. You don't fill the silence. You leave the void there, bothering them, making them wonder what the hell is going through your head. That silence, that void you created, it's a force field. Because now they are trying to enter your world, not you trying to enter theirs. The dynamic has flipped, and all you did was nothing. Power isn't noise. Power is gravity, and gravity doesn't scream. It just pulls. But knowing the code isn't enough. You need to live it. You need to translate these truths into daily actions that will rebuild you from scratch. So let me give you the practices, the rituals that turn philosophy into flesh and bone. First, audit your dependencies. Take a piece of paper, write down every person, every result, every external condition you believe you need to feel good. This is your list of chains. It's where your power is leaking. Now ask yourself, what would happen if I lost this? Not to be morbid, but to be prepared. To disconnect your survival from anything outside your control. The person who doesn't need anything external to feel whole is the person who cannot be threatened. Do you depend on their validation? Chain. Do you need that job to feel valuable? Chain. Do you count on the respect of others to know who you are? Chain. Every dependency is a weapon you hand over to the world to use against you, and as long as you have these chains, you will never be free. You will never be unstoppable, because there will always be someone or something that can stop you simply by threatening to take away what you depend on. So you cut them, one by one. Not overnight, but consciously, deliberately. You learn to feel complete without their goodnight text. You learn to feel valuable without the promotion. You learn to feel powerful without the applause. And when you achieve this, when you reach this place of strategic self-sufficiency, you become dangerous. Because now, no one has leverage over you. Second, train your response time. Every time something triggers you, notice the gap. The space between the stimulus and the response. At first, this gap will be invisible. You will react before you even realize you had a choice. But with practice, this gap widens. And inside this gap lives your power. The power to choose silence over explosion, observation over assumption, strategy over survival mode. Someone insults you. You feel the anger rise, but instead of speaking immediately, you breathe. Count to 3, and then choose. Is it worth wasting energy on this? 90% of the time, the answer is no. And you let it pass. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough not to need to defend yourself from every cheap provocation. A practical exercise. The next time someone sends you a message that annoys you, don't answer right away. Wait an hour. Just 1 hour. In that hour, the anger will decrease. Clarity will increase. And when you finally respond, you will respond with strategy, not emotion. And the person on the other side, they will feel the difference. They will realize you are no longer that person they could provoke and watch explode. You have evolved. Third, practice strategic invisibility. Stop announcing your moves. Stop explaining your process. Stop proving your value to people who didn't ask. Let your results speak. Let your silence confuse those who expected your noise. Let your absence create more presence than your presence ever did. The world is addicted to visibility, but the most powerful moves happen off stage, in the quiet hours, in the invisible discipline, in the choices no one applauds. You don't need an audience to do the work. In fact, the audience gets in the way. Because when you announce what you are going to do before doing it, you create expectation. And expectation creates pressure. And pressure creates fear of failing publicly. So you move in silence, execute without warning. And when you finish, you simply show the result. No drama, no fanfare, just, it's done. Fourth, build your internal council. Not just people, although yes, you need a few who sharpen you, but also voices. Thinkers who lived before you and left maps. Machiavelli is one, but there are others. Marcus Aurelius on discipline, Robert Greene on strategy, Carl Jung on the shadow. These aren't just books, they are mirrors. They show you parts of yourself you have been avoiding. Build a relationship with them. Return to them when you are weak. Let their words recalibrate your mind when the world tries to bend it. Fifth, commit to the long game. Not to the applause, not to the shortcut, not to the viral moment, to the long, slow, invisible construction of something that cannot be shaken. Something that doesn't need external validation because it was built on internal truth. This is the Machiavellian way. Not domination, not cruelty, sovereignty. Total ownership of your own mind, your own direction, your own fire. And here is what no one will tell you about being unstoppable. It's not about speed. It's not about intensity. It's not about forcing your way through every obstacle with brute force of will. It's about inevitability. The unstoppable person moves like water. When blocked, they don't crash headfirst into the wall. They find another way. They go around. They go under. They wait until the wall crumbles. But they never stop moving toward the destination. Machiavelli observed this in the leaders who survived when others fell. They weren't the strongest. They weren't the loudest. They were the most adaptable, the most patient, the most willing to change tactics without changing targets. He wrote, "Fortune favors the bold, but only when boldness is paired with preparation. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how prepared you are when it happens." Most people try to predict the future. The Machiavellian mind prepares for multiple futures. It builds contingencies, develops skills that work in chaos, cultivates a flexibility that makes it dangerous in any environment. You can't stop water. You can only redirect it temporarily, and eventually it finds the way. That is what you are becoming. Not a force that breaks walls, a force that survives them. And there is a psychological shift that makes this possible. You need to disconnect from the timeline. Most people quit not because the goal is impossible, but because it is taking too long. They have an internal clock that says, if it hasn't happened by now, it won't happen. That clock is a lie. The timeline was never real. It was just something you absorbed from a world obsessed with speed. But depth takes time. Transformation takes time. Becoming who you were meant to be takes more time than becoming who they wanted you to be. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince at 20. He wrote it after being exiled, tortured, stripped of power and influence. He wrote it from the ruins of his former life. And that book changed political philosophy forever. Your greatest work might come from your darkest season. Your real impact might begin when everything seems to have ended, but only if you refuse to be stopped. Not by failure, not by time, not by the voices that say you should have made it by now. You aren't behind. You are in formation. So here you are, at the end of this, but really at the beginning. You heard the code, you saw the pattern. Now the only question left is, will you use it? Because knowledge without application is just entertainment. You can watch this, feel something, and tomorrow morning go back to the same patterns. Or you can decide right now that something has changed. That the person who started this video is not the same person finishing it. They couldn't hold you back, because you are no longer standing still. They couldn't break you, because you have already put yourself back together. Stronger, wiser, quieter. They can't stop you, because you stopped asking for permission. The code isn't complicated. Own yourself. Master your reactions. Move in silence. Prepare for everything. Attach to nothing. That is it. That is the architecture of the unstoppable. Machiavelli understood it 500 years ago, and now you understand it too. The question is, what are you going to do with the next 500 days? Are you going to build, Or are you going back to the chains? If something in this woke you up, leave 2 words down below. I am unstoppable. Not for me, for you. To mark this moment. To declare something to yourself that no one else needs to understand. And if you aren't ready to say that yet, that's okay too. Just remember this. The fire is still there. It never left. It was just waiting for you to stop apologizing for its heat. Now burn.